Number one of them being WanDale Robinson, my number 10 pickup of the week, 9% rostered. I would spend about 3 to 5%, depending on how desperate you are and depending on if some of these other names are available ahead of him. But he just had his best game of the season on Monday. 6 catches, 7 targets, 79 yards was a season high here. And then also getting that kind of Jaden Reed and Deebo Samuel usage with 2 carries, 36 yards. Very creative usage here for WanDale Robinson, the most involved that we have seen him. In the playoff schedule, really not too shabby. Now, this week looks rough. New Orleans on paper, a bottom 3 matchup for wide receivers, but they're actually a top 12 matchup for slot receivers. Really brutal for outside guys, but actually a solid spot for slot guys, a slot funnel defense for sure. And then the next week, WanDale gets Philadelphia, the most points allowed to wide receivers, followed by the Rams, who we just saw a ton of receivers getting wide open at will from Baltimore against them, and they just have been a very hot or cold defense. So I could see, especially with Tommy DeVito, the Italian, starting to cook here with the Giants, maybe just maybe WanDale Robinson emerges as that clear-cut number 1 option here for this Giants attack. Another guy I'd look at, though, maybe even ahead of him, is Rashid Shaheed. Similar amount of fab I'd bid, 3 to 5 or so % here for Rashid Shaheed. He's expected to return in week 15, according to Adam Schefter. Now, there's been some conflicting reports, and Nick Underhill, one of our favorite beats, one of the guests of the podcast here, did say it's a more serious injury than initially thought. So it's no guarantee that Shaheed is going to be back. If it was, I'd probably bid 10 to 20% on him. But given that we don't know 100% for sure, should Shaheed be in, he can't just give all your fab up to go get him. But if he's going to play, I mean, this is a guy averaging 16.2 yards per reception, 12th in the NFL, 9.7 yards per target, 13th in the NFL there. He has 19, 18, 24 half PPR days on his resume so far this season. And yeah, it's been boom or bust. There's certainly been plenty of busts mixed in there. But you look at the upcoming schedule. Should he be in there, Rashid Shaheed? The Giants, 3rd most points to wide receivers, some of the most big plays allowed in passing games. What week 16, the Rams 16th in terms of points allowed to wide receivers, and over the last few games, even worse, going downhill from there. And then in your championship week, Shaheed would get the Bucs, one of the top matchups as well, 6th most points to wide receivers as well. Again, it has to be on the field for it to even matter, so we've got to keep tracking that injury report for this thigh injury, but there was, quote, a chance he's going to return this week. He could be stepping in with Jameis Winston with all these injuries to Derek Carr and the team pretty much turning on Derek Carr, and who can blame him at this point? The linemen are yelling at him. The receivers are screaming at him. Dennis Allen has any kind of spine, he'll bench Derek Carr, put in Jameis Winston. What better time for Rashid Shaheed to return than if JMO is just slinging the rock? Now, I'm going to jump ahead to my 6th and 5th ranked pickups of the week because they are also wide receivers. I just kind of want to package them all together here. If these two are out there, Zay Jones and Curtis Samuel, 29% rostered for Zay Jones, 35% rostered for Curtis Samuel. I think they are absolutely worth 20 to 25% of fab and can be that immediate wide receiver 3 fill-in that you might crave, that you might need. Let's talk about Zay Jones first and why I do prefer Curtis Samuel just slightly over him. We saw Zay Jones, though, these past 2 weeks, no Christian Kirk. He got knocked out. He's on the IR. He's done for the year. 20.5% and 28% target share for Zay Jones across his last 2 weeks. Most recently, 14 targets against Cleveland last week. Now, he didn't do a whole ton with it. Only caught 5 of them, 29 yards. An actual pretty abysmal, inefficient effort here from Zay Jones. But that was against Cleveland, the fewest pass yards allowed in the league, the 2nd hardest matchup for wide receivers. You got to note here that they do also face the Ravens this next week. So can you really toss them in with confidence? No. But a guy seeing 28% target share should never be on your waiver wire. And then you look at the fact that they get Tampa Bay, the 6th most points allowed to wide receivers in the next week, in week 16 here. And Zay Jones is a guy last year, 24.5, 27.5, 21.7, 34.9, 21.4. He had 5 games of 21 or more fantasy points last year. So we know there's a blow-up ceiling potential here. Finished as the wide receiver 26 last year in fantasy, and he's out there in 70% of leagues right now. So I think Zay Jones could be a potential answer to your wide receiver woes. Now, if you miss on him, or I'd actually rather have Curtis Samuel, 35% rostered. Definitely check for him. I know in your league he's never been available, right? But he actually got dropped in a lot of leagues last week due to his bye. And just last time out, he was yet again the top scoring wide receiver for Washington, continuing a trend that has happened in over half of their games that Samuel has played. He, in fact, averages more points per game when he makes it through a full game. He got ejected in the game. He got hurt in a couple others. But when he's played the full game, Curtis Samuel averages more points than Terry McLaurin on the season. Last time out, 4 catches, 65 yards on 4 targets, just barely got tackled at the 1-yard line. Could have been a monster day here for Curtis Samuel. The game before that, 12 targets, 9 catches, over 100 yards for him, a 19 fantasy point day in PPR, 36.4% targets per route run that week. And we had that stretch from weeks 4 to 6, 18.2, wide receiver 12, 18.5, wide receiver 14, 14.2, wide receiver 23. All of those were higher finishes than Terry McLaurin has all year. We saw Sam Howell just religiously pepper the slot when he had Josh Downs at North Carolina. It seems to be trending that way in the pro level as well, that he really likes to have those high percentage throws there. So Curtis Samuel, definitely a guy I'm looking at. The schedule, not too shabby. It's the Rams this coming up. Then he gets the Jets. Obviously a tough matchup in week 16, but San Fran in week 17 actually giving up the 12th most points to wide receivers. So 2 of those 3 matchups really not bad at all here for Curtis Samuel down your stretch runs. 2 of them are top half of the league. So that wraps up some wide receiver plans for you. If you're still aching from Tank Dell or whatever you might need to plug in there, those are 4 names there with WanDale Robinson, then Rashid Shaheed, then Zay Jones, and Curtis Samuel that I do really like. The honorable mentions again being Juju Smith-Schuster, Quentin Johnson, if you really have to dig deep and swallow some puke in that sense. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.